The reluctant meeting. The setup. Emma Hartwell stood outside Romano's, her breath forming small clouds in the crisp evening air. Her fingers trembled as she gripped her phone, thumb hovering over Riley's contact. She could still cancel. She could claim a sudden illness, a family emergency, anything to escape the mortifying experience that awaited her inside that gleaming restaurant with its crystal chandeliers visible through the windows. "You promised," she whispered to herself, remembering the determination in her best friend's voice that morning. Riley had been relentless about this blind date, insisting that Emma needed to stop hiding behind her bookshelves and actually live her life. At 28, Emma had convinced herself that she was content with her quiet existence, managing the children's section at Riverside Books and spending evenings with novels instead of people. It was safer that way. Books never disappointed you the way people did. But Riley had worn her down with passionate arguments about missed opportunities and self-imposed isolation. Her last relationship had ended 3 years ago when her ex-boyfriend, Derek, had casually mentioned that she was too boring for his newly successful lifestyle. Those words had burrowed deep, confirming every insecurity Emma had harbored since childhood about not being interesting enough, pretty enough, or worthy enough. Taking a shaky breath, Emma pushed through the restaurant's heavy door. The warmth inside wrapped around her immediately, along with the sophisticated ambiance of soft jazz music and the gentle clink of expensive silverware. She felt desperately out of place in her modest gray dress from a department store clearance rack, surrounded by women in designer outfits and men in suits that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The entrance. The hostess, elegant in black with perfectly styled hair, smiled professionally. "Good evening. Do you have a reservation?" "I'm meeting someone. The name might be under Cross or maybe Bennett." Riley had been vague about the details, which only increased Emma's anxiety. Yes, Mr. Cross. He arrived early. Right this way." Emma's heart sank. He was already here, which meant she couldn't scope out the situation first. As she followed the hostess through the crowded restaurant, Emma caught herself in a decorative mirror and winced. Her auburn hair, which she had tried to style into something sophisticated, was already coming loose from its clip. Her minimal makeup did nothing to hide the nervous flush on her cheeks. The hostess stopped at a corner table with a perfect view of the city lights. The man sitting there looked up from his phone, and Emma's first instinct was to turn and run. He was nothing like she had imagined. Riley had said her colleague's friend was nice and looking for something real, which Emma had translated to probably average-looking and recently divorced. This man was striking. Dark hair with just a touch of silver at the temples, strong jawline and eyes that seemed to assess her in one sweeping glance. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit without a tie, the top button of his white shirt undone in a way that suggested casual confidence. He stood immediately, his movements graceful and assured. "Emma?" he asked. His voice was warm, deeper than she had expected. "Yes, you must be—" She realized she didn't actually know his first name. "Mr. Cross?" A smile touched his lips. "Julian. Please, sit down." Emma slid into the chair across from him, immediately grabbing the oversized menu and holding it up like a shield. Her eyes scanned the prices and her stomach dropped. The appetizers alone cost what she usually spent on groceries for a week. This had been a terrible mistake. She didn't belong here, sitting across from this obviously successful, devastatingly handsome man who probably dated models and entrepreneurs. "Would you like some wine?" Julian asked, his tone gentle. "They have an excellent selection." "Just water, please," Emma said quickly, still hiding behind the menu. She could feel his gaze on her, assessing and curious. The silence stretched between them, filled only by the ambient restaurant sounds. "Riley speaks very highly of you," Julian said, attempting conversation. "She mentioned you manage the children's section at Riverside Books. That must be rewarding." "It is.
Children are honest about what they love. They don't pretend to enjoy something because it's trendy or impressive. Unlike adults, Julian observed with a knowing smile. Exactly. I could use that kind of feedback in my world. Everyone's afraid to tell me the truth. Why would they be afraid? Emma asked before she could stop herself. Something flickered across Julian's face, an expression she couldn't quite read. Professional reasons, mostly. But let's not talk about work. Tell me about your favorite book. The question caught Emma off guard. Most dates, on the rare occasions she had been on them, asked about her job, her hobbies in a perfunctory way, or worse, talked endlessly about themselves. But Julian leaned forward, his dark eyes focused entirely on her, as if her answer truly mattered. "That's impossible to answer," Emma said, feeling a genuine smile tug at her lips for the first time that evening. "It changes depending on my mood, the season, what's happening in my life." "Then what are you reading right now?" "Actually reading or pretending to read?" Emma surprised herself with the playful response.
Julian's eyebrow arched with interest. "There's a difference?" "There's always a difference. I'm actually reading a collection of Jane Austen's letters because I love seeing the real person behind the novels. But I keep a copy of Infinite Jest on my nightstand to look intellectual, even though I've tried to read it 4 times and never made it past page 50. Julian threw his head back and laughed again, drawing glances from nearby tables. "That's the most honest thing anyone's said to me in months. I have a leather-bound collection of Proust that exists solely to impress visitors. I've never read a single page." Breaking through the walls. Emma found herself laughing too, the tension in her chest loosening. The waiter arrived to take their order, and Emma panicked again at the unfamiliar menu items. Julian, seeming to sense her discomfort, suggested they share several dishes so she could try different things without committing to an expensive entree. As their dinner progressed, Emma discovered that Julian was remarkably easy to talk to. He asked thoughtful questions about her work, her childhood growing up in a small town upstate, her dreams of maybe writing children's books someday. He didn't interrupt or redirect the conversation to himself the way Derek always had. Instead, he listened with an intensity that made Emma feel truly seen for the first time in years. "I moved to the city 7 years ago," Emma found herself sharing, "with this grand vision of reinventing myself. But I think I just brought all my insecurities with me and added new ones on top." "What kind of insecurities?" Julian asked softly. Emma hesitated, her old instinct to deflect kicking in. But something about the way Julian looked at her, without judgment or pity, made her want to be honest. "That I'm not interesting enough. That I don't fit in places like this." She gestured around the elegant restaurant. "That I'm the kind of person people forget about." "Emma?" Julian reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. "I've been on more first dates than I care to admit. Most of them blur together because people perform versions of themselves they think I want to see. But you've been authentically yourself all evening, even when it's uncomfortable. That's not forgettable. That's rare." Emma felt her cheeks flush, but this time not from embarrassment. "Riley told me this was a blind date, but she didn't tell me much about you. What's your story?" Julian's expression shifted slightly, a guardedness entering his eyes. "What did Riley tell you exactly?" "Just that you were her colleague's friend and that you were looking for something real. She was surprisingly vague, actually, which isn't like her." "Riley is a brilliant marketing director. She works for my company." Emma's stomach tightened with a familiar anxiety. "Your company? You're her boss?" "Not directly. The company's large enough that we don't interact daily, but yes, technically I'm the CEO." The words hung in the air between them. Emma set down her wineglass, which she'd finally accepted halfway through dinner,
with a little too much force. CEO of what? Cross Enterprises. We're a tech development company. We create software solutions for... She stopped, reading her expression. Emma, does it matter? Of course it matters. Emma's voice rose slightly before she caught herself. Lowering her tone, she continued. Riley set me up with a CEO? What was she thinking? We're from completely different worlds. You probably live in a penthouse and take business calls from Paris. I live in a studio apartment above a laundromat, and my big excitement this week was finding a first edition Roald Dahl at an estate sale. The laundromat keeps you up at night, doesn't it? The machines run late, and you can hear everything through the floor? Emma blinked, surprised. How did you know?
Because I lived above a laundromat for 2 years when I was starting my company. I know exactly how that sounds. The rhythm of the spin cycle at 2 in the morning. Julian's expression softened. Emma, I'm not my job title any more than you're just a bookstore manager. I thought we were connecting as people tonight. We were, Emma admitted quietly. But now I can't stop thinking about how I tried to pay with a coupon at that coffee shop last week. And you probably have people who, I don't know, carry gold bars for you or something. Julian laughed despite the tension. I can assure you, no one carries gold bars for me. And I use coupons. My assistant makes fun of me for it regularly. Emma wanted to believe him, wanted to return to the easy conversation they'd been having before reality intruded. But Derek's voice echoed in her head, reminding her that she didn't belong in the world of successful, sophisticated people. She was playing pretend, and eventually Julian would realize it too. The turning point. I should probably go, Emma said, reaching for her small purse. Thank you for dinner. It was really nice, but I think we both know this isn't going to work. No. Julian's firm tone stopped her mid-motion. I don't know that at all. What I know is that I've spent the last 2 hours having the most genuine conversation I've had in years. What I know is that you make me laugh, that you're brilliant and kind, and that watching you talk about books makes me want to read everything you recommend. Julian, what I also know, he continued, his voice gentler now, is that you're scared. And I understand that because I'm scared too. I'm scared that you'll see my bank account or my job title and decide that's all I am. I'm scared that every woman I meet is performing for me, and I'll never find someone who wants me for me, not for what I can provide. Emma's throat tightened with unexpected emotion. That's different. You're not the one who's out of place here. Aren't I? Julian's laugh held no humor. Emma, I don't have real friends, just business associates and people who want something from me. I haven't had a genuine conversation with someone who wasn't on my payroll in months. You, sitting across from me, nervous and honest and refusing to pretend you belong in this overpriced restaurant, are the most real thing that's happened to me in years. I don't know what you want me to say, Emma whispered, fighting tears she didn't fully understand. Say you'll give this a chance. Give me a chance to show you that job titles and bank accounts don't define who we are or what we could be together. Say you'll see me again, not as a CEO, just as Julian, the guy who also can't get through infinite jest and has terrible handwriting and gets irrationally annoyed when people don't return library books on time. Emma looked up at him, really looked at him, and saw past the expensive suit to the genuine vulnerability in his eyes. She saw someone as lonely as she was, as tired of performing, as desperate for a real connection. I'm not going to suddenly become sophisticated, she warned him. I'll still live above a laundromat and use coupons and say awkward things at inappropriate times. Good, Julian said simply. I don't want sophisticated. I want you. The words settled over Emma like a warm blanket, wrapping around the cold insecurities she'd carried for so long. Maybe Riley knew exactly what she was doing. Maybe sometimes you had to risk being seen to find someone worth being seen by. Okay, Emma said finally, a genuine smile breaking across her face. I'll see you again, but next time,
can we go somewhere where I can actually pronounce the menu items? Julian's answering grin was radiant. How about the taco truck near Riverside Park? Best carnitas in the city, and everything costs under $10. Now you're speaking my language. As they left the restaurant together, Emma felt something shift inside her chest. The fear was still there, but now it was mixed with hope, with possibility, with the beginning of something that felt remarkably like belonging. Julian held the door open for her, and when his hand accidentally brushed hers, Emma didn't pull away. Outside, the city lights sparkled like possibilities. And for the first time in 3 years, Emma thought maybe, just maybe, she was ready to be seen.
Part 2. The Revelation and Proposal. The morning after decision. Emma woke Sunday morning to sunlight streaming through her small apartment window and the persistent buzz of her phone. She reached for it groggily, her mind still replaying yesterday's perfect afternoon at the farm. 3 messages from Riley waited on her screen, each more insistent than the last. Emma Hartwell, you better call me right now. I heard through the grapevine something very interesting happened at Romano's Friday night. Why is my colleague asking me if you and Julian are dating? Emma! If you don't call me in the next hour, I'm coming over with coffee and demanding answers. Emma smiled despite her nervousness and hit the call button. Riley answered before the first ring finished. Finally! Do you have any idea what torture it's been waiting? Spill everything, and I mean everything. Over the next hour, Emma recounted the entire evening, from her terror outside the restaurant to the unexpected chemistry with Julian to yesterday's magical trip to his farm. Riley listened with occasional gasps and squeals of delight. Emma, this is like a fairy tale. Do you realize that? It's terrifying, Emma admitted, pulling her knees to her chest on her worn couch. What if people find out? What if they think I'm using him? What if he realizes I'm completely ordinary and loses interest? Stop it, Riley said firmly. Julian Cross is one of the most genuine people I've worked with. He doesn't play games. If he's pursuing you, it's because he sees something real. And you are not ordinary. You're brilliant and kind and exactly the kind of person who deserves happiness. The corporate complication. Monday morning arrived too quickly. Emma stood in front of her bathroom mirror, trying to calm her racing heart. She had chosen a professional burgundy dress that made her feel confident without being too formal. Her hands shook slightly as she applied mascara, remembering Julian's words about being careful and discreet. The bookstore felt different as she walked past it on her way to the bus stop. Her coworkers there had been her safety net for years, but Riley had convinced her to take a risk on something more. Now everything felt uncertain, balanced on the edge between wonderful and disastrous. The Romano's corporate headquarters, where Julian's company, Cross Enterprises, occupied the top 15 floors, Emma navigated the elegant lobby with new awareness. She was here for a follow-up meeting about a potential partnership between Riverside Books and Cross Enterprises' new educational technology division. Riley had arranged it weeks ago, long before the blind date. Emma, Riley appeared beside her, impeccably dressed in a charcoal suit. You look amazing. Ready for the presentation? As ready as I'll ever be. Is he going to be there? Julian? No. He's in meetings all morning with investors from Singapore. You'll be presenting to our division head, Margaret Chen. She's tough, but fair. Emma felt both relieved and disappointed. Part of her hoped to see Julian, to confirm that Friday night and Saturday afternoon hadn't been some beautiful dream. Another part was terrified of seeing him in a professional context, afraid she would give something away with a look or a smile. The presentation went well. Margaret Chen was indeed tough, asking pointed questions about implementation costs and projected user engagement. But Emma's passion for children's literacy shone through, and by the end, Margaret was nodding with approval. I like your vision, Miss Hartwell, Margaret said as they concluded. Riley was right to bring this partnership opportunity to us. I'll have our legal team draw up a preliminary agreement. We should be able to start the pilot program within 6 weeks. Emma floated out of the conference room, her professional confidence soaring. She had done this on her own merit, without Julian's involvement.
It felt good, powerful even. Lunch? Riley suggested. There's a great sandwich place 2 blocks over. We can celebrate your success. The unexpected encounter. The sandwich shop was crowded with the lunch rush, and Emma and Riley barely found a small table near the window. They were laughing about Riley's disastrous attempt at online dating when Emma saw him. Julian sat alone at a corner table, reading something on his tablet while eating what looked like a simple turkey sandwich. He wore dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, his jacket draped over the empty chair across from him. He looked tired, she noticed, shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there Saturday. "Is that Julian?" Riley whispered, following Emma's gaze. "Should we say hello?" Before Emma could respond, Julian looked up and their eyes met across the crowded restaurant. For a moment, the world seemed to narrow to just the two of them. Then he smiled, a small private smile that made Emma's stomach flip, and gestured to the empty chair at his table. "Go," Riley urged. "I'll be fine here. Go." Emma crossed the restaurant on shaky legs, aware of curious glances from other diners. When she reached Julian's table, he stood immediately. "Emma, this is a surprise, a wonderful surprise. I didn't mean to interrupt your lunch. I just wanted to say hello. Please, sit, unless you'd rather go back to your friend." Emma glanced at Riley, who made exaggerated shooing motions. "She'll survive without me for a few minutes." Julian's smile widened as Emma sat down. "How was your morning?" "Productive. I just finished a presentation at your company, actually, for a partnership with Riverside Books." "The Educational Literacy Initiative? Margaret mentioned she had a promising meeting this morning. She didn't tell me it was with you." Julian's eyes sparkled with pride. "How did it go?" "Really well. Margaret approved the pilot program. I did this completely on my own merit. No one knew about us." "There is no us in a professional capacity, Emma. Your work stands alone. It always will. But I'm glad Margaret saw what I see, your brilliance, and your passion for making a difference." The honest conversation. They talked for 20 minutes, oblivious to the busy restaurant around them. Julian told him about his frustrating morning with demanding investors who wanted faster returns on newer technologies. Emma shared her nervousness about the partnership and her excitement about potentially reaching more children through digital platforms. "I barely slept last night. I kept thinking about everything that could go wrong, with the partnership, with us, with people finding out and judging." Julian reached across the table, stopping just short of taking her hand, aware of their public setting. "Emma, I barely slept either. I kept thinking about how much I enjoyed Saturday, how easy it was to talk to you, and how much I wanted to call you but was afraid of seeming too eager." "Really?" Emma's voice was soft with surprise. "You were nervous?" "Terrified. It's been a long time since I've cared enough about someone's opinion to be nervous." Julian's expression was vulnerable in a way that made Emma's heart ache. "I know this is complicated. I know there are valid reasons to be careful, but I also know that what I felt Saturday was real, and I think you felt it too."
I did, Emma confirmed. I do. But Julian, I need you to understand something. My entire life, I've had to work twice as hard as everyone else to prove I deserved my place. I put myself through school. I built my reputation at the bookstore, one customer at a time. I've never taken shortcuts or accepted help I hadn't earned. If people think I'm with you for your money or your influence, it will destroy everything I've built. Then we'll make sure they don't think that, Julian said firmly. We'll keep this private until you're ready. We'll be so professional at work that no one could possibly question your integrity. And in the meantime, we'll get to know each other away from all of this. He gestured around the restaurant. Just Emma and Julian. Not CEO and bookstore manager, not rich and struggling, just two people who like talking to each other. The proposal of patience. Emma studied his face, searching for any sign of insincerity or ulterior motives. She found only honest affection and determination. "What are you proposing exactly?" she asked carefully. Julian leaned back, thinking. "I'm proposing we date in secret for now, not because I'm ashamed, but because I want to protect what we're building. I'm proposing we take our time getting to know each other without the pressure of public scrutiny. And I'm proposing that in 6 months, maybe a year, when you feel secure in your professional achievements and your own worth, we go public properly." "A year is a long time to hide," Emma pointed out. "Then we'll make every moment count. Private dinners at the farm, weekend trips to places where no one knows us, late-night phone calls when we can't sleep." Julian's voice dropped lower, more intimate. "Emma, I'm 41 years old. I've dated enough to know when something is worth protecting. You're worth protecting. What we could have together is worth protecting." Emma felt tears prick her eyes. "What if you get tired of waiting? What if someone else comes along who's easier, more convenient? Then I would miss out on you, which would be the greatest mistake of my life. I'm not looking for easy or convenient. I'm looking for real, for genuine, for someone who sees me as more than my bank account. I found that in you, Emma. I'm not letting that go without a fight." The sincerity in his voice, the vulnerability in his eyes, broke through Emma's last defenses. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's try this, but slowly, carefully. And if at any point it becomes too complicated or too risky for either of us, we have to be honest about it." "Deal," Julian agreed. "And Emma, thank you for taking this chance. I know it's scary. It's scary for me, too." "Really? The billionaire CEO is scared of dating a bookstore manager? The man who spent most of his adult life alone is scared of screwing up something precious with the woman who makes him laugh. Very scared." The sweet beginning. They sat together for another 10 minutes, talking about nothing important, favorite foods and worst first date stories, and the books that they had both read as children. When Riley finally approached the table, apologetically reminding Emma they needed to get back to work, Julian stood with her. "Thank you for lunch," Emma said formally, aware they were being watched. "Thank you for the conversation," Julian replied with equal formality. But his eyes held warmth and promise. "I hope we can do this again sometime." As Emma and Riley left the restaurant, Riley grabbed her arm excitedly. "That was the most romantic lunch, non-lunch, I've ever witnessed. Did you see how he looked at you?" "Riley, we were just talking. You were gazing into each other's eyes like the rest of the world didn't exist. Emma, that man is completely smitten." Emma couldn't help the smile that spread across her face. "Maybe I'm a little smitten too." That evening, Emma's phone buzzed with a text from Julian. "I can't stop thinking about you. Is that creepy or romantic?" Emma laughed and typed back, "Depends on your next message." He typed back, "I want to take you somewhere special this weekend, somewhere we can be ourselves without worrying about who's watching. Will you come with me?" Emma's heart raced as she typed her response. "Yes, absolutely yes." A moment later, another text arrived. "I know we said we'd go slow, but Emma, I have a feeling slow is still going to feel too fast because every moment with you makes me want more." Emma hugged her phone to her chest, feeling happiness bubble up inside her like champagne. Maybe this was crazy. Maybe it was risky. Maybe it would end in heartbreak. But for the first time in her adult life, Emma was choosing possibility over safety, hope over fear. And it felt absolutely right. She texted back, "Then let's be scared together." Julian's response was immediate. "Together sounds perfect."